finally for once I have a cute-ish autumn background that's not purple or wallpaper. Welcome to my bedroom in autumn, guys. If you've not seen the vlog where I decorated it, that is already up and I'm pretty happy with it. Look how cute, look how cozy. I thought that today we'd take it back old school and we'd do a Q&A because I've put off doing one of these until there's things to update you on, because I feel as though every Q&A has been the same. Since I got home from traveling, I don't really have an update. Oh wait, I brought this lipstick to put on and I didn't put it on. Let me complete the autumn vibes. Oh yeah, that's better. So basically the other day I popped a question box on my Instagram and I'm just gonna answer them. We're gonna start with the general life update, and the questions around that are all to do with travel, saying where are you heading next, where do you want to go next, what are your future travel plans, etc, etc. And I actually did post on my Instagram story about this last week, but if you missed that, Tom and I are heading to South America in, well, technically December, but like January, February, March. We are planning, like, I think it's about a 10-week trip. We have a rough return date just because Tom's job are actually giving him like unpaid leave. That's kind of how we're working this one. So he has a return date, and then because of that, that kind of means that for the first time ever, we are planning a trip to like a specific date. We've actually never done that before. Nothing like a challenge. So you might have heard me mention that we've been planning this on and off for a while. We knew we wanted to do it ever since we went to Asia. We kind of had in our heads that at some point we were going to do a very similar trip in South America, but we just didn't really have dates, and we kind of came back to the UK last December knowing that we were going to be based here for like roughly a year. We didn't really know. Then we've kind of now decided that between Christmas and New Year we are actually flying to the Caribbean, which I'm so excited about. I've never been to the Caribbean, but it's like my parents' favorite location. I feel like they've been to a lot of the Caribbean when they were younger, but somewhere that's always kind of been on my list. But that's where we're starting just because we wanted to spend New Year there, so we're kind of starting off as like a bit of a holiday, and then from the Caribbean we are heading to like Central America and then making our way into South America. We don't have a route yet, so I don't want to go into specifics about like where we're heading just in case that changes, because like we haven't solidified it. We have places that are really high on our bucket list. So for me that is Costa Rica and Peru. Tom really randomly really wants to go to Uruguay, and then we both really want to visit Brazil and Argentina. So that was kind of like our starting point. And to be honest, I don't think we'll fit much more than that into this trip. It's definitely going to be fairly fast paced, like a quick moving backpacking trip. But I'm optimistic that we're kind of quite good at planning now, like we've got this down. And like I said, we don't have anything specific planned and we don't really know what we're doing. So if you've been to South America, or you live in South America, or you've done this kind of trip before, do let me know. I asked on Instagram, but like if you've got any tips and tricks or recommendations, things like that, do get in touch. I don't know why my hair is flicking. I got it cut yesterday and it is really flicky. Also it blends in with this jumper. Like this jumper is the exact same color as my hair. So yeah, that's such an exciting update. I feel very lucky that we are able to continue traveling like this. It's something that we've both wanted to do since we first went backpacking. Like we knew we wanted to do South America. Tom's super interested in like the sport and the football and the Spanish speaking countries. Tom has been learning Spanish for like the last 2 years, so he's buzzing about that. And I feel as though I'm so excited to experience new cultures and just a completely different environment. Obviously we've traveled around quite a few areas in Southeast Asia and the culture there is just so rich and so amazing, and I think that that is my favorite part of traveling. I love seeing parts of the world that are so different to where I have grown up, and I think that South America is going to be different again. Also, I'm so excited for the food. That is Lottie barking. She's like, yeah, me too, I love food. But without whittering on too much more, because obviously I don't have much else to say at the moment, I will keep you guys updated in vlogs. The only other thing I want to add is that we are going to be doing a tour in Argentina. I think that's the only place we're going to do a group trip, and we are doing that with I'm Here Travels, which are one of my favorite companies. 2 of my good friends actually run that company, and I feel very, very lucky that they've invited Tom and I to join their first ever Argentina trip. And you guys can actually join to book onto that too if you're planning your own South America trip. I'm gonna link I'm Here Travels down in the description below, because they are running a trip to Argentina and also to Brazil. They are basically back-to-back trips. We're not going to be on the Brazil trip, but we are going to be on the Argentina trip. But a real perk, and I think we will rejoin up with them at the end of the Brazil trip, is that they are deliberately timing that so that it ends in Rio when it is Carnival, and that is something Tom and I have very high on our bucket list. Like, we are going to be going. I'm not too sure the details yet, but I'm so excited. Obviously you do hear some slightly scary stories stories about carnival in Brazil, but I'm not one to be put off, to be honest. Like, I think a lot of the time you hear people going, oh my gosh, it's so dangerous here and here and here, and of course there is danger everywhere you go, but there's danger in the UK and I live here. As long as you're sensible and you've got your wits about you, it's something that I've kind of always had in the back of my mind. And honestly, we did not plan this around that time at all. It was just luck. Like, can you believe that? Honestly, I just was Googling and I was like, oh, I wonder when that is. And it literally is the week that we had, oh, we're gonna be in Brazil, kind of roughly written down. I cannot believe it. So basically, if you're interested and you want to look into that more, but you don't know where to start, I'm Here Travels are running a trip deliberately around the timings of that. So yeah, I'm gonna link their website down below. You can join us in Argentina if you're gonna be in Argentina in February. Come with Tom and I, it's gonna be so much fun. I feel as though that is a weight kind of lifted off my shoulders, because that means that it's one country where we don't have to organize anything and they're gonna do the planning, and you know, we just have to turn up. And then the beauty of a tour is that they take you from A to B. So yeah, South America. I feel like that's the whole first 5 minutes of this video. Okay, the next question that I'm gonna answer is, what does your life actually look like behind the scenes, i.e. what percent of it are you spending traveling at the minute? This is a good question. I would say at the minute it's very much like 50-50. I would say I'm at home in my actual house maybe like 40% of the time, and then 60% of the time I'm elsewhere. And a lot of that 60% is like out of the UK, but sometimes it's just elsewhere in the UK. So like I work from London sometimes. I also stay at Tom's a lot, so then it's like really, I'm just moving around. I'm never in this bed for more than like 4 nights in a row, like ever. So I'm very much used to just constantly moving around, and I feel as though that's the lifestyle that I have adapted to, and I quite enjoy that. I don't really like being in the same place for too long, especially at the moment. I think because I am still living at home, that's a routine that really works. I'm always kind of just coming and going. My parents are just always joking that this house is like a hotel, because it's a revolving door of like me, my brother, and then like Tom stays here and my brother's girlfriend stays here, and then there's nobody here, and then my dad works away, and then it's just like literally no 2 nights in this house are the same. I feel as though it's probably about 60-40 with travel at the moment, and that definitely is looking very similar going into next year, potentially more. I think we might be away more next year, which kind of leads me on to the next question. A lot of people asking, have you decided if you're going to go back to Australia next year? Are you going to move out next year? And of course I've been keeping you guys up to date with that, and that has been the big question of this year. When we came home last Christmas, Tom and I kind of had said to ourselves, we're going to give ourselves a year and see where we're at, for multiple reasons. 1, we had to leave Australia because our visas had run out. 2, we needed to resave up some money. And 3, we really just didn't know what we wanted. And I think if you're feeling uncertain and you don't know what your next step is, sometimes it's just easier to take that step back. And for us, that was coming home, seeing where we were at. We never had a set plan. We never had the goal of like, okay, we'll live here until March and then we'll look to buy a house or we'll look to rent elsewhere. We've very much just taken the year as it's come, and somehow we're nearly in October and the time has just flown. That's kind of scary, but also kind of nice, because the year has been so busy that I don't know when we would have had time to do anything else, like move back to Australia or move out here, just because neither of those things were the priority for 2024. However, going into 2025, it's obviously a big conversation, and we are very much leaning towards we will be back in Australia at some point. Again, I don't know how long for, and we don't have a set plan, but we just feel as though we're not done, and we're both so on the same page in the sense that like the quality of life in Australia and the work-life balance just is better than it is in the UK. The difficult decision comes because our friends and family are here and our jobs are here, and I think that obviously we've been in this position before, we made the decision and we don't regret it at all, and we're still like, we feel still so young. We're only 24. When we feel so strongly about these opportunities, it feels silly to let them kind of like pass us by. So we are gonna see. Next year's still a big question mark because we do have other commitments and we've got things going on. I've got group trips, I've got group tours, 2 of my best friends are getting married. All of these things are obviously based from the UK. It makes the decision difficult, but I don't think that there's ever a good time. So I do think that you just have to make the decision eventually. I think people watching this could be like, I want to move to Australia, but like this is in the way, this is in the way. And obviously big major life events, of course you're going to want to be at home. It's also easy to find an excuse. like I could be like, oh well, I've got a group trip to Morocco in July. Well, yeah, I do, but I can also fly from anywhere to get there. And I think that then you start to build up excuses. We don't want to do that. The answer to the moving question as per is I don't have a real update on that, but we're leaning towards at some point temporarily being based back in Australia, potentially. Don't hold me to that, because we might go back on it. I think the most important thing with this kind of plan though is that Tom and I are always on the same page. And don't get me wrong, I'm definitely keen to move out and to move in with Tom, but kind of like I've said so many times in other videos, because of the nature of the style of travel that we've been doing for the last 2 years, and potentially into next year, it just hasn't been our priority this year. Does that make sense? Shall we answer a few more quick ones? Oh my god, my foot has gone completely to sleep. Ow! Are you a Halloween or a Christmas person? I think I'm more of a Christmas person, but my birthday is right around Halloween, so I've got a soft spot for it, but I'm not really a spooky kind of girl. I think I'm an autumn person. I was discussing this earlier in the week. I think autumn and Halloween are actually two different things. Like, you can be a really like spooky season, witchy, Halloween-y kind of person, or you can just love autumn. Like, look, I love this. Like, I'm a big fan of this, but overall I think I'm a Christmas fan. Okay, this is such a good one. I actually would love to know your answers to this too. If you could relive any age of your life, what would it be and why? I think if I had to pick a year, can I say 23? The year that I lived in Australia, but also that year was just so good because like I also went to LA and saw the Eras tour. Can I pick the Eras tour? I'm gonna go with the last year of my life. I think 23 to 24 was just the best and the most, or probably also the most confident I've ever felt in myself. I definitely feel as though that year really was just me living my best life and thriving. Definitely a certain element of like when I came back to the UK, obviously by that point I was 24, definitely feel a little bit more insecure. I don't know what it is. I was talking about this again the other day with somebody, and I think that when I was in Australia and when I'm traveling, I feel more of an authentic version of myself just because I am being 100% myself, because everybody that I meet is usually somebody new, so they don't have any like preconceived ideas about like me when I was younger, or like they're just meeting me at face value as a 24-year-old, do you know what I mean? And sometimes I find that quite refreshing because I find then that I'm a bit more confident. Also, 23 is a fun age. I feel like I hit 24 and I'm like, oh my god, mid-20s, people expect more from you. And I don't necessarily think I was expecting it from myself. Like, I don't think I was putting pressure on myself, but there's definitely like an external expectation from society that you're gonna start getting your life together, which hasn't really happened. So I'm just here to tell you that you don't need to do that. You've got ages to do that. Like, you actually do. You have so much life left to live. You don't have to have it figured out really at all by now. What is your favorite airline to fly with? A very good question, and I'm actually going to say Etihad, because as a vegetarian I thought that their veggie meal options were great. However, I am flying with Singapore Airlines in a couple of weeks, and from memory I think that they're also really good, but I've not flown with them recently, so maybe I'll update you in the vlog, because I think it could be between Etihad and Singapore, because you just get treated really well. They're just really nice to you. Also a big fan of Virgin Atlantic, but I don't fly with Virgin Atlantic as often just because they predominantly, as the title would suggest, fly transatlantic between the UK and the US, and I actually don't really go to the US that often. What are you most excited for your Philippines group trip? A really good question. I'm so excited. Everybody that is hosting it I'm friends with, like the actual tour company and the tour guide, and my brother is coming with me. I just feel as though it's just going to be the best dynamic, and the Philippines is such a beautiful country. I'm so excited to go back to it. I'm probably the most excited to meet all of the new people. Everybody that's booked onto this trip seems so lovely. We've had a group chat for such a long time and everybody's really chatty and lovely in the chat. And like I always say, it's always the people that make the trip. But separate to the people, I'm also super excited to visit Siargao, which is one of the islands in the Philippines that I've not been to before, and it's also where my friends actually live in the Philippines, so excited to see that. Somebody said, what are you reading at the moment / what have you read recently? I actually just finished a book yesterday called The Birdcage. This is the cover. And I also read, oh my gosh, what was it called? This one by the same author whilst I was in Croatia. These are my two most recent reads. I really like them. I actually think that this one was a little bit better just because it gripped me a lot more. I can't think why, I can't remember the name of it. Kind of thrillers, but more just like real life mystery rather than like anything too psychological. No real like murder mystery, just more like kind of messes with your head, which I really like. I I love a book that keeps you guessing. I think the whole way through, especially this one, I was like, oh my god, where's this going? Like, what's gonna happen? And then the plot twist. I love a twisty turny novel. However, I'm actually gonna be now switching back to using my Kindle because obviously I'm gonna be away for like a month. So I do need to download some books. So if you've got any recommendations, I have other physical books that I've not read, but I just can't take them with me. For example, I bought Cleopatra and Frankenstein the other day. I also bought this one, which is called The Wrong Sister by Claire Douglas. Claire Douglas is probably one of my favorite, like, easy to read thriller style writers. She has just a knack of like it being such a fast pace that you read the books really quick, which I love. I would much rather be like invested in it, feeling like I want to finish it, than like it feeling like a slog to pick up. But I can't bring either of these with me. They're both chunky books and I need to download some for my Kindle. So if you've got any recommendations, leave them in the comments if you've read anything good recently and you think I would like it. Somebody said, do you find it difficult still living with your parents and not having any more independence? Honestly, no. I think that people expect the answer to this question to be yes, but because I don't really feel like I live here all the time, I think that makes it easier. And I think also I'm in a really lucky, blessed position where like I get on with my family really well, and I think that I definitely don't take that for granted. I completely understand and have people in my life, friends in my life, where living back home wouldn't be an option or it would just be really difficult. Fortunately, I feel like Tom and I are both in really lucky positions where firstly, we live around the corner from each other, and secondly, we both have good relationships and have the availability to move back home. I don't take that for granted at all, and it isn't a permanent thing. Like, I didn't move home thinking like, cool, this is it forever, I'm gonna have this bedroom for the rest of my life. Like, no, I think about moving out all of the time, but I also don't want to rush a financial decision that's actually just not going to be the right one, because we could have so easily moved home at the beginning of the year and looked to buy a house and moved out and lived in that house, but ultimately after a year we would both have gone, oh, kind of still want to go to Australia though, and now we've got this mortgage, what do we do with that? And absolutely you can make that work. I actually know so many people that do exactly that and then maybe rent their house out or sell it, or you know, all of those things. There are options. You of course at any point can decide to change your life. Like, it's not a full stop, but it would be a little bit of a bump in the road that we potentially just don't need. Renting wasn't really ever on the table for us because we didn't really want to do that, and if Tom had got a job elsewhere and he'd have had to move, of course we would have looked at that, but his job was commutable from where we already live. I think that everything just kind of fell into place that for this year this was the right decision. Like I say, I don't take that for granted. I feel incredibly lucky. This is a rogue one actually. Somebody said, do you wish you went to uni and possibly just did a different course instead? Do you have any regrets about that? Honestly, no. I think there are multiple contributing factors to why I think no, but the main one is I still just don't have anything that I would have wanted to have studied. I also think by the time I left, I really just, education was not for me. I was in the wrong headspace and I kind of felt like I just wanted to do it on my own. Like, I just wanted to be earning an income and be able to just be like, yeah, I'm done with this. I also think now, in retrospect, looking back, I'm really glad that I didn't, because my kind of age group and like uni cohort years would have been throughout the pandemic. Like, I would have ended up doing it at home anyway. Nah, honestly, not for me. Maybe later in life I will regret that, or maybe later in life I'll go back and get a degree. I think that's something that is always a possibility. Yeah, not an option I would ever shut down, but I don't really look back at the decision with any regrets. This is one I'm also getting quite a lot of, and I did kind of speak about this in my vlog last week. How do you feel about all of your friends being at completely different stages of life? And again, I think that approaching 25 is probably the most different all of my friends have been in terms of what people's lives look like. Everybody now around me is doing something completely different, and I think up until like 21 most people are doing roughly the same thing. People are in education, they're at uni. After 22, 23 it starts to become like anybody's game, and this year for me, 2 of my closest friends have got engaged and are getting married. I have other people, like slightly more extended people, like friends of friends in my life, having babies. I feel really far from that point, I'll be honest. Like, it is not on my agenda at all at this point in my life to think about marriage or kids. Like, I have selfishly maybe way too much that I want to do for myself. I'm not at that point yet at all. But it doesn't mean that I'm not happy for those people and that I'm not excited for them. I think as long as people are happy, it really is not that deep. Like, I look at my friends and I think, oh my gosh, you are so, like, this is the right decision for you and I'm so happy for you. If I were in that position, I would be feeling completely different. But I can see that that is the right step for them. So then I think it's just a really nice, just a nice feeling to look around and see everybody kind of thriving in their own lane. Yeah, I don't know. I think that that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think it's definitely, you can fall down the rabbit hole of comparison. As long as you know that you're doing what's making you happy, it really doesn't matter what other people are doing. I should take my own advice because sometimes I definitely come away from situations feeling as though maybe I'm doing the wrong thing or maybe I'm behind. Then I think that sometimes says more about how other people are acting towards you. For example, if you've got extended family or people on the fringes of your life that are like, you're 25, you should be getting married. I don't really care that they're saying that because I just think, oh, okay, that's what you think, but that's not what I want. So, do you know what I'm saying? I feel as though it's coming out wrong, but for me, I feel as long as I'm content, then I don't really care too much what people think of me. And I also am not judging other people because, like, it's not affecting me. I'm just happy for them. I'm gonna end on a silly one because I love this question. If you could get 3 actors to play you, your boyfriend, and your brother in a film version of your life, who would you get? This is such a good question, and have we answered this before? I also feel as though for me, Harry and Tom, the natural thing that comes into my head is like Harry, Ron and Hermione, just because we have a Harry and then Tom and I would be Ron and Hermione, and I feel like that already sort of works. They aren't actors though, they're fictional characters. I actually feel like I don't really have an answer to this, but I will say recently I have been getting so many DMs from you guys saying that I look like this actress that is in a new Netflix series. I haven't seen the Netflix series, but when it came out, the weekend that this was released, my DMs were like, oh my god, I thought this was you in a Netflix drama. And personally, I don't really see this, but let me know in the comments, do we look alike? Should she play me? Because maybe she should. I feel as though this is like definitely the most recent comment that I've got a lot of. I used to get a lot of Drew Barrymore and Britney Spears when I was blonde. I've stopped getting that because I'm not blonde anymore, but now I'm getting this. So, and on that note, without really answering the final question, I'm gonna wrap up this Q&A. Other than that though, thank you so much for watching. I shall see you guys on my channel with another video very, very soon. I'm actually in Asia whilst this goes up, so there will be some content coming from my time in Thailand and the Philippines. Subscribe so that you don't miss that, and I shall see you guys in my next video. Bye!